Hi, everybody. This is Stacy Hoffman-Farmer, licensed massage therapist with Mountain Serenity Massage. Today, I am here with Eileen Day McKusick. She is the developer of a technique called biotuning and has been practicing the effects of audible sound on the human body since 1996. I'm really excited to speak with her today. She is also the author of this really incredible book, Tuning the Human Biofield, which I have just started reading. It's pretty darn incredible. So I'm very excited to hear from her today about how audible sound can affect your body as well as your emotions to make you feel better. So Eileen, welcome. It's really great to see you today.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, I wanted to jump right in with your biofield tuning. As I said, I just received your book in the mail and I started reading it, which is how I got in touch with you. And I think using music and audible sound to create healing is just an incredible technique. So I wanted to hear more about it from you since you've been practicing just for a really long time. I want to hear how you like.
20 years this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. The milestone for sure.
Absolutely. So how did you get started even practicing in this field? I know you were a massage therapist to start out with, and then you moved into audible sound.
Yeah. So I started off as a massage therapist. It was a very brief career as a massage therapist because I got into sound pretty much right away when I was doing massage. I had been reading some books. This was back in the 90s, maybe 95, 96 or so, when I started reading different books on the use of color and sound and music, basically vibrational healing. And it just made a lot of sense to me because I had previously learned that, you know, the sort of quantum physics, everything is vibration, right?
Yeah.
And if everything is vibration, then treating vibration with vibration is just very logical and it's very elegant. And I'm a researcher by nature, so when I get interested in a particular subject, you know, I dive right in and read everything I can. So after I finished up this stack of books, I found a catalog that I got in the mail that had a set of tuning forks for healing in it. And I just started playing with them and really noticed from the very beginning, very interesting phenomena and compelling outcomes with my clients. And so I stuck with it and spent 10 years doing it as a hobby, just part-time. And then started to discover that, because I was just working right over the body or close to the body, which is how most tuning fork practices are. I accidentally started discovering some of the phenomena that I was discovering close to the body, like loud spots and places where there was static, basically places where the fork would go from sounding coherent to incoherent. There would end up being noise in the signal, or I would encounter a sense of resistance. And that was what I worked with, you know, part-time for years, just kind of finding loud spots and moving them to the center and finding staticky spots and clearing them up. And people would have really great outcomes. But when I started to discover phenomenon 3, 4, 5, 6 feet away from the body and started working with that stuff, then very profound outcomes started occurring with my clients. And so when that started happening, I realized that I was onto something that was very interesting. You know, I was able to help people, like, let's say they'd had chronic anxiety. It would resolve in just a session or 3. Pain, you know, that they'd had for a long time, resolving. All of these things are just frequency patterns in our body. They're rhythms and flows and, areas of congestion, right? Pretty much all holistic medicine seeks to treat the same thing, which is congestion, right? Some form of congestion or inflammation. And so the idea is to bring it into flow. And so what I discovered and what I'm continuing to discover is that I was actually working with the body's electrical system. Not only the electrical system, but the acoustic system, you know, and what's the difference between sound and electricity? It's a really interesting question, right?
Yeah.
Basically, sound, I think, is lower frequencies, because if you take sound and you add heat, you increase it, it becomes heat, and then it becomes electricity. So it's just sort of like a lower frequency electricity. Ultimately, I think everything is electromagnetic. So sound is as well. It's just not recognized as electricity. And I also discovered that as I'm working in the field around the body, it's dawning on me that this is mind and memory. Because any place I would find an area of static or trauma, or static or resistance, there would be a story in it. And I had this very curious ability, really from the very beginning, to when the fork went into some kind of incoherent signal, that there was a story there and I knew what it was. And I'd be able to say to the person, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing this. I'm hearing sadness at age 10. What does that make you think of? And they would say, oh, that's when my mother died. So what that did over time, and this took many years to emerge, but I discovered that all of the sad stories I found in the same place. I found in the area off the left side of the heart. And all of the angry stories I found off the right side of the solar plexus. And so on, like all kinds of stories, all seem to have a home in a stratified layer in the field, this diffuse magnetic field surrounding the body. And so I've found a hypothesis that I call the Biofield anatomy hypothesis that says that what is in traditional esoteric terms described as the aura or the human energy field, what science calls the biofield, which is a shortening of the biomagnetic field or the electrical system of the body, that this is like a toroidal kind of bubble that surrounds us at a distance of about 5 feet out to the sides and 2-3 feet above the head. And that this is where our memories are stored. They are stored in a kind of binary sequencing in a standing wave within the atmosphere of our biomagnetic bubble. And that a tooth fork acts like a needle on an album. And as you pass it very slowly through the field, it interfaces with the standing waves. And so just if you drop 2 pebbles in the water, you get that intersection of waves.
Yeah.
That in that intersection of waves, the story that's stored is broadcast. And so I'm able to, to read it or hear it. And it's all like a language. And I'm able to teach this to people, and my students find that the more sessions they conduct, the more they start to understand that language themselves. Kind of like learning an instrument or a new language.
Absolutely. Learning an instrument would be perfect since it's acoustic.
So basically what we're encountering for the most part in this work is undigested emotions, is these traumatic experiences that people have moved away from in time and space, but maybe not necessarily digested and integrated. And the tuning forks help to locate these particular areas where energy is just stuck, it's frozen, it's not moving. It breaks it up, the sound breaks it up and gets it moving, and then it goes back into circulation. It also resolves the chaotic oscillation that's trapping that energy in place, the chaotic experience, the waveform expression of your personal feeling state as you go through something traumatic. Wow. So it both harmonizes and liberates these parts of our psyche.
Oh, I love that term, harmonizing, because, learning to live with emotion, you really do have to harmonize with the fact that they're part of who you are.
That's right.
So this is pretty revolutionary, and it sounds very, scientific, and it borders on that energetic aura, thing that we're all learning about as we go in this day and age. So it sounds like you came from more of a scientific perspective as well. You've been testing it. All of a sudden, you're finding these spaces around the body that are holding specific times. You're saying time frames in your life where something's happening. So it's almost like it's expanding out from where you are now.
That's right. You're continually, exactly. You're continually generating this information, so it moves away from you as you generate it. Like, hey. Right? So as it grows, right, it moves away. So that's the way these experiences, and then they get recorded in the field. So information I find close to your body is current or recent. Information I find the outer edge of your field is your gestation, your birth. A lot of trauma happens to people in those areas, like under the age of 3. Many of the patterns that we struggle with as adults were forged in those from the point of conception to around 3 years old. And those are exactly places where your conscious mind can't get to. But what's really neat about this work is that we can actually go back in time and we can read the record of your experience there, even though you don't remember it. But not only can we read it and be like, wow, your mom and dad were fighting a lot, it was really chaotic, it didn't feel safe, and this is influencing you up to present time, we can actually modulate that vibrational experience so that it changes the way your nervous system refers to it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty incredible. So you can actually go back into a point where you don't consciously remember something happening, something that you're carrying into your current life potentially that could be causing problems.
Exactly. Because we do attract what we are, basically. And it isn't even that we attract what we are. It's that, in any given moment, you're subjected to about 40 million bytes of information. Your brain can only process 40. And so everything gets filtered down through the lens of your experience. So if you have a lot of trauma or chaos in your early nervous system, your experiences are being filtered through that. So it just creates your own personal experience of things that reinvigorate that feeling state, because it is you but it's you on this very, very deep subconscious level.
Wow. I love that it's bringing out things that you don't consciously remember, because I know a lot of people dealing with emotional trauma, they may have something current that they're really experiencing and they can relate to, but a lot of people don't realize that it carries through, that it's something that may have happened before and you're not really realizing it, like, oh, well, my shoulder hurts, but why does my shoulder hurt? I didn't hurt myself. I wasn't playing golf or baseball. Like, why does it hurt all of a sudden? And you're finding it in this energetic field. Right. Something happens way in the past, perhaps, that's carrying that pain in.
Absolutely. So it can be something from, very early childhood, some big heavy thing that you never digested. It can also be, what I'm finding more and more lately in my work, as my work evolves, is that people are carrying what I'm calling the energetic signature of their ancestors. So there's been a lot of research that's been coming out lately about how your grandparents' experiences leave their mark on your genes. And so we tend to really think of DNA in terms of like the sort of chemical aspect, but it has a vibrational harmonic expression too. It's very tonal. So if you have a history of, say, depression and or anxiety in your ancestry on either side, that tonal song is going to be passed down to you. And so what I'm finding more and more and more is that so much of what people struggle with at the level of like me and mine is actually DNA moving through the time-space continuum, that you just happen to have inherited this song of this story, and it's not even, quote, yours. It's something that originated generations ago and has just, because this stuff will go downstream until it's digested. Patterns will repeat over and over until something comes along to interrupt that pattern. And what's really neat about this very sort of simple method, you can do it with a single tuning fork, is that it will harmonize, it will resonate with whatever tone is present. That's the sort of identification aspect. A tuning fork gets into a dissonant pattern. But then because the tuning fork is this sort of continual coherent input, the body will actually recognize its own incoherence and use that coherent input to kind of auto-tune or auto-adjust itself into a state of harmony. It's very neat.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it really sounds like you're identifying the issue. You know where it's coming from. You can even pinpoint like a space in time where it's coming from, whether it's from current or your past. That's really revolutionary for me, is hearing that it's coming from your past, from your ancestors, that you don't even know really what happened to them. And the body will auto correct itself once it knows it's there. That's incredible.
It is incredible. It's really incredible. And so for me as a practitioner, it's my job is to just sort of find these areas of distortion, and just kind of stay with them until the body relaxes down out of it. The body sort of reboots itself. And then, then to find more. And there's always energy that's stuck there. So just being able to help guide that sort of back into the system and back into flow. And it's very liberating, because if you've had a lot of trauma, a lot of your energetic reserves are tied up in these suppressed and resisted experiences. It makes us unable to function at the level that we want to in our life. You know, people might struggle to maintain order around themselves, or struggle to complete projects, struggle to not yell at their kids. You know, all of these things are just patterns in your field that once they've been harmonized and liberated, you start to have energy for more play, for more creativity, from just more joy. You know, you're not carrying around all this heavy, undigested baggage with you that keeps on repeating itself in your life situation.
Wow, that's pretty liberating as well, to think about having such a simple technique and you get this incredible shift in your quality of life. It's just a better quality of life. So
Yeah.
have you experienced, using this as you have and testing it over time, have you experienced really great physical release as well? So if someone's carrying around pain in their body in a specific location, is this also assisting that by locating those emotions?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a theory that a lot of pain, most pain, much pain is emotions you're not allowing yourself to feel.
Absolutely.
That you're sort of suppressing and holding at bay. And, there's all kinds of great little sayings around that, like emotions express themselves, or feelings buried alive never die, or the way out is through. But what we resist persists. So
there's hundreds of them. That's true.
And so physical pain is very often a manifestation of some kind of imbalance in the mental or emotional body. So as we resolve the sort of underlying emotional congestion that's there, then the physical congestion will release. So we have a lot of success with things that are energetic or emotional or tension related. If somebody has a torn rotator cuff or a torn meniscus, or severe degenerative arthritis, it's not going to correct those things in the physical, right?
Of course.
But if it's patterns of tension, if it's emotional, it's amazing actually what it does.
Oh, that's pretty incredible. I see a lot of clients that have those kind of emotional issues where physically they feel fine. There's not a tear or an inflammation or something specific that can be corrected with more of a Western view. But I think this would be pretty incredible to locate where it is. Why are you holding that, pain in your leg, or as people say, a pain in the neck?
That's right.
Who's sitting there causing that problem?
My book actually goes into a detailed explanation of what I call the Biofield anatomy, which is, that if somebody, for example, gets left shoulder pain out of the blue and they get these tests, there's, x-ray, there's nothing wrong physically, that they're carrying around something that's sad, that they've got sad stuck there. And if somebody ends up with right shoulder pain, they're overdoing for others. I've treated many massage therapists who end up with right shoulder issues. And it's because, when you go into any of the caregiving professions, so much of what you do is about everybody else. We often say yes when we mean no. It's like, can you fit in this 6th massage today? And part of you wants to be like, no. But you say yes because you want to help them, and then then you've blown yourself out. You're totally exhausted. So that's the kind of place where you get that right shoulder injury.
That makes perfect sense. And I've been feeling a little too. I have to do a lot of emotional releasing after I work with some of my clients. So I'm sure many people can relate to that. Just specific areas in your body where it hurts.
Yeah.
So I know I was reading in your book as well that you've identified specific areas in the field that also relate to your parents or perhaps your kids, or so you're also starting to bring in other outside influences in specific locations.
Yeah, mom and dad have actually fixed points within our field, kind of an unusual thing, but about 10 inches off the left side of your solar plexus, so just above your navel, there's a fixed point that's about the size of a hockey puck, only it seems to me to be more of an oval. And that's mom. And then the right side, on the other side, is dad. And I can hold a tuning fork in that specific area, and I can totally describe to you the personality of your mom or your dad and the dynamics of the relationship between the two of you. And that's all in there. And what's really neat is that when people do a number of sessions, like it seems to really kick in if they've done around 5 or 6 sessions, we start to notice a change in their parents.
Oh my gosh, so it's actually affecting the relationship with the parent?
It's affecting the parent's energy.
That's incredible, because I, as most people know by now, I'm a firm believer in how energy focuses between people. If you're really connected to someone, you absolutely can feel when they're sad or upset. You know that there's something going on with that person. So hearing that from an acoustic perspective as well, that it's radiating into that other person's energy, that's pretty revolutionary for me.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty amazing.
Benefit without even being there.
Yeah. Yep. I call it a homeopathic dose because we're resonantly connected. We, especially if we have the same DNA, there's, how we have that instant knowing when, there's something wrong with your kid, right? You just feel it. Or I don't know if we feel it so much with parents, but I think people do, or even spouses, because you become so resonant with them, right? So we're like little antennas that are broadcasting signals, right?
Yes.
And so we pick it up.
That's pretty incredible. I love to hear that, because I know a lot of people are out there listening as well that are maybe concerned about relationships with a parent. Perhaps it wasn't an easy relationship, and on some level you really feel that relationship is something that you're carrying around in your energy, and it's stuck. It's not feeling good. So
that's right. And it comes what the history is coming between you now.
Exactly. Mm. That's great. So you can really shift not only your own health and feel better in your own physical body, you could repair those relationships with people that, really formed who you are. Because, a lot of people, your parents really are the beginning of how you develop your personality. So
yeah, and they're actually much more influential than we like to think that they are. True. Something that I've just really seen reading the records in people's fields, not only from the nurture part, but also from the nature part, the DNA, the energetic inheritance that's there. I just wrote a blog post recently about the unmothered child, and how I found that such a big percentage of people who are seeking help, looking to holistic therapies to help them to feel better, have in common that they were not mothered. They were not mothered well. They were not mothered correctly. That their mom was, emotionally unavailable or crazy or, stressed or, and that they didn't get the mothering and the nourishment and nurturing that they needed. And it left a hole in them that they then go on in their life. They're always trying to fill that hole in some way or another. And, it's a very fundamental need, and so it's worth, like, if anybody resonates with that, they should read that blog post on my website, which is called The Unmothered Child.
Absolutely. So definitely check out Eileen's website, because her work is pretty incredible. And my last question for you today, I know we talked about this a little earlier, was, I know it's a very physical, kind of modality that you feel like the person has to be right in front of you, but you have also been discovering that you are able to do this remotely and have had great success.
Yeah, and I didn't think that was possible. People ask me for years, or like, do you do this remotely? I was like, no, like, this is physics. I'm using sound waves on the body. Like, there's no way that I could do it remotely. And then my mentor, one of my mentors who wrote the foreword to my book, a fellow by the name of Dr. Carl Merritt, was in California and I was in Vermont, and he persuaded me to try doing a distance session on him. And I really didn't, I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to humor you because I appreciate how you helped me. But so when a person lies down on a table and I approach their body with G-force, I'll start about 5 or 6 feet away and I'll move my way in. And I'll encounter all of this sort of acoustic standing wave phenomenon. I'll be able to read them. I'll be able to say, this happened at this stage, this is going on, you have inflammation here, you have a misalignment there, your spleen is underpowered, you never express your feelings, like you had a head injury when you were 6. Like, all of these things are all just encoded because I figured out how to read people's memories. So, so much to my amazement, the exact same kind of pattern showed up on the table, and I was able to go through and read it and manipulate it. And I took notes. I wrote down, this age, this thing, that, the other. And then I got on the phone with him afterwards and I went through my notes, and he was like, yep, those are all correct. And I felt a state change while you were working on me. And I was like, no.
That's pretty incredible. So he wasn't even on like Skype like we are now.
No, it was we were just no interaction.
Okay, wow. That's incredible. So, the takeaway here also is that you don't actually have to be present with the tuning fork, that there is a possibility for remote work going on.
And you don't even have to believe in it, because I didn't believe in it and I was able to do it. So
a healthy dose of skepticism is always good.
I
You
agree.
have to learn your own way, you know, see if it fits for you. Always do your research and check things out. So I definitely recommend, you know, tuning the human biofield. I think I'm on the 3rd chapter so far, and it's been incredible just in those 3 chapters. What you went through personally as you questioned your own technique to really refine it. It's just incredible.
Right. Yeah, no, I was skeptical the whole way. I was actually skeptical about it for 15 years. It took 15 years of doing it before I finally stopped being skeptical and really kind of saw enough evidence, you know, that I was like, okay, this is actually, you know, the structure really seems to be here, you know, this biofield anatomy, and this method really seems to be producing profound outcomes for people on a pretty consistent level, on the physical, mental, and emotional. And as I'm starting to really work with now, these genealogical level, that's just so fascinating.
Wow. So the mind-body-spirit connection is absolutely present in acoustic tuning. It sounds, I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. The book is pretty overwhelming. Check out the book, definitely. She has several diagrams that show you where in the biofield she's finding these things. So for those of you who are into auras, she's, you know, reading the aura and seeing what's going on in your energy. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, Eileen. This has just been incredible. I'm so glad we were able to learn more about this today.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. So definitely check out Eileen's website. We'll make sure all that information is posted on the webpage. And everyone have a wonderful day. Nice talking to you.
Thanks.